Imagine standing in a deep gorge, surrounded by towering, blood-red sandstone cliffs. This isn't just any other gorge. This is Vatapi. And in the 6th century, one man realized whoever controlled this gorge controlled the entirety of South India itself. Hi folks, I'm Vishnu. Welcome to Empires in Stone. Today we are talking about Pulakeshin I and his fort in Vatapi. The mid 6th century was a curious time. The grand empires of India were gone. The Guptas to the north, the Vakatakas in the Deccan Plateau had perished, and they had left behind a squabbling bunch of kingdoms fighting amongst each other to control trade routes and river valleys, which were quite fertile. But amongst this chaos, there was one empire in the south. It was the Kadambas. They were ruling modern day Karnataka. They were the first Kannada empire, but they also had some problems, big ones. They were plagued by civil wars amongst themselves. And as if that was not enough, they were being attacked by the Pallavas, the rising Pallavas from Tamil Nadu in the south. All of this conflict resulted in their treasuries being drained. They were pretty much broke, and the standing army was decimated in these conflicts. And one man, one man was waiting and watching like a predator, biding his time for a moment to pounce. This man was Pulakeshin. He was son of a feudal lord. A feudal lord was a vassal to the Kadambas, and they ruled the region of Vatapi, today's Badami, in the middle of Karnataka. Pulakeshin realized something. He realized Vatapi had a natural tendency to be a fort. It was perfect. And he realized if he controlled this region, these cliffs of sandstone, he could control the southern India. So he went upon a journey to build a fortress. This fort was nestled in between two giant red sandstone cliffs. This was a little pass. Pulakeshin built around this pass. He transformed the geography of the pass itself. He built it in such a way that a small tiny garrison of some men could stand and fight against an army literally 10 times their own size. This fortress became the springboard for Pulakeshin to declare himself king. And he did declare himself king. He wrote it in stone itself. He called himself Vallabheshwara. This inscription was written in 543 CE. By putting this inscription up, he had declared himself to be a king. But merely declaring himself a king wasn't enough. He was still a vassal in everybody's eyes, still a small tiny feudal lord. To most people, you could say he was just a warlord. But Pulakeshin had ambitions beyond this. He didn't want to be just a warlord. He wanted to be king. So Pulakeshin turned to the ultimate geopolitical flex to get his legitimacy. So what is this geopolitical flex I talk about? It was the famous Ashwamedha Yagna. This ritual is a very curious ritual. The way it works is a horse is brought in, ritual ceremonies are performed around the horse itself, and then the horse is released to walk around the kingdoms neighboring the person who's performing the ritual itself. In our case, that's Pulakeshin. So Pulakeshin's horse was roaming around the kingdoms around him. And wherever it walked, the rulers of those kingdoms had two choices. First one, welcome the horse and accept the suzerainty of Pulakeshin. Second choice, stop the horse and declare war. But many rulers around Pulakeshin realized war was a futile endeavor against Pulakeshin. So they all welcomed the horse, paid their tributes, and accepted Pulakeshin as their overlord. Not only this, he performed other rituals like the Hiranyagarbha. We're going to talk about this in a future episode where we talk about Dantigurga, the first ruler of Rashtrakutas. But for now, let's just leave it here. So after performing this Ashwamedha Yajna, Pulakeshin not only had declared himself a king, but he has also legitimized himself through rituals. He had divinely ordained himself to be a king. And you might wonder, did the Kadambas not do anything now also? I mean, the guy was literally declaring himself to be a king, performing the Ashwamedha Yajna, and legitimizing his rule. What did the Kadambas do? Well, you might be surprised to hear they also accepted the suzerainty and the overlordship of Pulakeshin. Imagine that. An empire that had ruled Karnataka for generations had just submitted to their own vassal, had become a suzerain feudal lord of some sort. They had been humiliated like never before. But they had no other choice. They had to go with the times. And the times had moved towards Pulakeshin now. So, what did Pulakeshin do after this? You might think, like many other rulers that came before him and came after him, he might have also gone on a massive spree of war, conquered everything in sight, and proved himself to be a great warrior, a great emperor. But no, Pulakeshin was a smart man. He realized fighting endless wars is not the way to build power. True power comes from politics, just like it does today, just like it did many years before Pulakeshin himself. So, what did Pulakeshin do? He consolidated his rule. To consolidate his rule, he, had, he explored many avenues. One amongst them was a diplomatic avenue. He decided to marry a princess of a local, what do you can say, a feudal lord, not really a king, but not really some random warlord either. A decent legitimate family. This was the Bapara family. Pulakeshin married the princess of that family, and through this, he not only secured an alliance of a powerful feudal lord, he also secured a decent sized army. But not everything can be so sunshine and rainbows. The 6th century period for India was a period of bloodshed, endless wars, conflicts, one starting right after another. And Pulakeshin and his little newborn kingdom wasn't immune to this either. They also had their problems on the borders. How did Pulakeshin handle this? He unleashed his son, Kirtivarman. You could say he was a sword of Chalukyas. Kirtivarman went on and defended the kingdoms, while Pulakeshin himself stayed away in the capital, doing what a king is supposed to do, and that was to rule. And not only to rule, but to win the hearts and minds of his subjects. How did Pulakeshin win the heart and minds of his subjects? It was very simple, but extremely effective. And you can see the reflection of these tactics even today, in today's politics. What were these tactics? First thing, he was a benevolent, secular ruler of sorts. Why do I say secular ruler? Because he funded and patronized many religions, be it the Jains, the Vaishnavas, the Shaivas. He patronized all of them. And to take it further, he funded art guilds to build temples, rock cut temples for these religions. And to take this even a step further, he made Kannada the court language of Chalukyas. By doing this, he signaled to the people around him who spoke Kannada that he wasn't just another king and this wasn't just another empire. This was the empire of the people themselves. This was their empire. This was all theirs. By doing this, he had won the hearts and minds of the subjects he was ruling. Because he realized that fear isn't the best way to rule. If you rule by fear, what happens? The king who rules by fear dies. In the next moment, his empire splinters into 1,000 pieces. There are many examples for this throughout the world. Pulakeshin avoided this with simple tactics. One simple move. He decided not to go to battle and rule his kingdom with a sound mind and avoid this fate. So, what came after this? Nothing extremely peculiar or grand, or how can I put this? Epic, as people say. What came after this was stability, which was far more important than any sort of glory anybody could have. Publication stabilized his kingdom. He stabilized the trade routes. He stabilized the river valley that he was ruling. By doing this, he signaled to the traders that this is a stable place. And stability is the most important thing for business. And through business comes tax. And through business, art flourishes. And these small little things, this is what makes an empire actually truly powerful. By doing these things, Pulakeshin not only filled up his coffers, his treasuries, he also ensured that the people around the subcontinent, especially the Deccan part, especially the traders, flocked to his kingdom to conduct their trade. And he was also geographically located in a pretty decent spot. Vatapi is located in the middle of Karnataka. The traders coming from the Andhra side can bring their goods right to Karnataka, right to Vatapi. The traders coming from the Arabian Sea side, they can also bring their goods here. The southern traders, the northern traders, they all can meet, exchange goods, exchange massive amounts of money, and pay massive amounts of tax too. By doing all of this, again, as I said, Pulakeshin signaled that he was the only stable, viable option that was left in the Deccan. The Pallavas were there also, but Pulakeshin was a bit better, you could say, a bit more strategically placed. So he did all of this, and unfortunately, in 566 CE, after doing all of this, the great man lay on his deathbed. He passed away, and he left a very, 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 very well fortified, a very well funded, and a strong, disciplined kingdom army to his kids, Kirtivarman and Mangalesha. They used this capital as a nucleus, as a springboard to create something extremely special. We will talk about this in the next episode. All of this happened because one man knew exactly where to build his walls. And this is how one fort changed the history of India forever. Thank you, folks, for your time. I truly appreciate it. And this is my first video. So if you have any suggestions, any opinions, any questions, anything at all, please let me know in the comments. I want to take this far. I want to improve. Help me do that. Once again, thank you. See you all in the next one. Until then, stay curious. Bye.